All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I want to welcome you all to the special meeting of the governing body of Spring Hill, Kansas on Friday, February 28, 2025. If you guys could stand with me, Mrs. Feedback is going to do the invocation for us today.
Dear Lord, I just thank you for bringing us all here today on this beautiful day. I just ask you to be with us up here as we're making decisions in the best interests of the citizens of Spring Hill. We just ask you to put a hedge of protection over everybody with their health. There's a lot of nasty flu stuff going around. We just ask you to watch our families, and we just thank you again for this day. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to say real quick, I want to apologize that we had to reschedule this for today. We had multiple council members last night just had conflicts where they had either some family things or some other things that they had to be at, and so it just seemed like the best thing that we could do to still have a meeting. And so I apologize for the people that usually like to watch it in the evening, but this was the best case scenario to get everyone involved. We got a couple out of town as well, so I do believe, Chad, are you there online?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, cool. With that, Madam Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Mr. Young,
Here.
Mr. Peel,
Here.
Mrs. Feeback,
Here.
Mr. Grant, okay. Mayor, we have a quorum present.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. I don't believe we had any requested changes, but if there are any comments or questions on that, if not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Anybody want to second it?
Oh, I second. Sorry.
You're good. I got a motion to second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0. Next, we'll move on to citizen participation. This is a time when the public can come in and speak about anything they would like to talk about. We just ask that if you do want to talk, you step up and state your name and address. We did not have anyone sign up on the list, but if there's anyone in the audience, now would be your time. If not, we'll go ahead and close citizen participation at this time and move on to the consent agenda. These are items that the staff considers to be routine maintenance, but if there are any questions or comments on that, I will entertain those now. If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal council action. The first item on the agenda is consider approval of agreement with Johnson County for the funding of roadway improvements along 207th Street from Webster Street to Woodland Road in accordance with the County Assistance Road System or the CARS program. And Mr. Spear, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. So this item is somewhat routine housekeeping item. The County Assistance Roads Program, or CARS as we know it, is a way that the county funnels gasoline tax back to municipalities in the county for eligible road projects. Our 2025 project that we submitted to the county, which was approved, was some base repairs and resurfacing of 207th Street between Webster and Woodland. The total eligible cost of that was estimated at just over $577,000, and the county awarded $257,000 as, or up to. So actually the way it reads is they will reimburse us for 50% of the eligible expenses up to $257,000. So if for some reason it comes in at less than $514,000, we would just get 50%. If it goes over that, we would cap at the $257,000. So the item before you is an agreement, formal agreement with Johnson County that just stipulates that we are accepting that funding and that we are authorizing the payment of our portion of it as well. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, I know for me, this is obviously an area, we've got several other places that we want to focus on some repairs, and this is definitely one that's much needed. If you drive over that area, I'm sure everyone does at some point, so it's, there's some pretty rough areas over there. Not nearly as rough as some of the other streets that we fixed in the last year or two, but definitely could use some attention.
Could you talk about the funding source a little bit more? It says cash reserves, but could we get like some maybe perspective of where that puts us after this is gonna be paid?
That was gonna be my question too.
Yep, be happy to. We haven't yet presented to you the use of any surplus cash from the 2024 budget,
Okay,
but it would be my recommendation that some of that gets dedicated to projects like this. And so this project will not be completed, I don't believe, until 2030. Is this project the newest addition, or is it a 25?
No, this is 25.
Oh, it's the 25 project. So the 25 project, I would recommend we take from cash reserves, either by moving new money into the capital improvement fund or spending from that capital improvement fund. The net effect here is relatively small dollars in a city budget and will not have a high impact on our cash value, cash balances.
How much do we have in the cash balance account, or wherever you're taking it from?
There's about $3.2 million in the general fund and about $1.5 million in the capital fund. Some of those capital fund dollars are earmarked for other projects.
Okay.
what was our rollover number from last year?
It's not final yet, but the number I have right now is about 1.3 million.
Okay, and this is gonna come from that essentially.
Essentially,
Okay.
I'm gonna make recommendations on how we put that money to work this year, not to leave it all in cash, but put it towards projects. And we have a number of things we wanna do that are in the capital plan that are smaller dollar amounts, and I'd like to see it spent on those projects this year. That, of course, will be a decision that you make.
Send them.
Yep. Let's do it. Any other questions or comments?
So just to clarify, that is going to be done this year?
Yes, that will be done this summer. In fact, our intention is to group this with our regular summer street maintenance project, and we will bid it, all the work together, so that we get, one contractor should get
Better
some
rate.
better pricing, some economies of scale. We will just, run the financials for this, keep it separate, so that we can account for it. It'll be its own line item within the, contract, but we should see some better pricing by combining this with our regular summer street maintenance program.
And this will go along well with a lot of the other, because we've tackled Woodland Road over there, we tackled Lincoln Road over there last year, and so this is another stretch right in that area that'll
And
kinda
it's,
complete some of that stuff.
it's a relatively high volume, but certainly, the vehicles that travel that road are large, heavy, vehicles. That street takes a pounding, so we need to, it's one that if we fall behind and don't keep up with that regular maintenance, it will get away from us in a hurry.
Yep.
Is the other cars project, the bigger one, gonna be on a different timeline? Probably a little bit longer, I would imagine.
Yes, and, I'll
It's gonna
talk
require
about
more
that on
prep
the,
to-
on the next item. I can give you some more detail.
Cool.
Chad, I don't want to leave you out. You got any questions or comments on that one?
Yeah, it's hard to jump in because I know I'm delayed. My only question is, it sounds like the county or the CARS program only going to pay 50%. So if we can get the bid lower, obviously we'll lower our half, but we don't get to keep the full amount they've approved, right? If we get the bid lower.
Correct. It's 50% of the eligible costs. And really, what's eligible are construction costs and testing costs. So any design engineering is not an eligible cost for reimbursement. So 50% of whatever we spend for construction and testing.
As long as we keep it under that 577 or whatever it was, we're going to be net positive, it sounds like.
Yes.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
All right, if there's any more questions or comments on that one, I entertain a motion.
I make a motion to, let's see. To approve and authorize the mayor to execute the proposed agreement with Johnson County to undertake a road improvement project along 207th Street from Webster Street to Woodland Road with funding from the County Assistance Road System Program in an amount not to exceed $257,000 with the balance of the project funded by the city.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0. Next, we'll move on to consider approval of resolution number 2025-R-06, a resolution acknowledging review and acceptance of the requested 2026 through 2030 5-year county assistance road system or CARS program. And Mr. Spear, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. So sticking with this CARS theme, so that county's CARS program, the item that you just approved is year one of a rolling 5-year program. So cities always put together the upcoming 5 years worth of CARS programs, CARS projects, and that's really just a planning tool. It's year one is in any given cycle. Year one is what gets formally approved and funded by the county. Years 2 through 5 are a planning effort, and then it rolls. So we just approved our 2025 project. Now the item before you is a resolution that sets our intentions of projects for 2026 through 2030. So it's the next 5 years. This time next year, hopefully, I'll be standing here asking you to approve the formal agreement for the 2026 project with specific funding amounts in place. So this outlines our plan, what we plan to submit to Johnson County for future CARS projects. The only project that is really binding on the city is that year one. And then we have the ability to move, if something changes next year and in those out years, we need to shuffle the deck, move some projects around, push one off, bring a new one in. We have that flexibility to do it. But as of now, this is what we feel is looking at the road conditions, needs of the community, timing with other projects. This is the project that makes sense for those projects that are eligible for CARS funding. Not every city street project is is eligible for CARS funding, so that's another element to this. The items that we are proposing are a 2026 project for resurfacing and some base repairs for 191st Street from Madison to Woodland. And part of the thinking on that is timing wise, that should dovetail pretty well with the future signal project at 191st and 169. That project will involve pavement replacement at the intersection and even back to the east as far as Madison Street. So this project would pick up from there, and the thinking being at the completion of this CARS project, then everything from Woodland through the intersection at 169 would be new pavement. Then the 2027 project is 199th Street from Webster to Woodland. This is just a section that is starting to show those signs of wear, and now is the time to, 2027 would be the time to get on that before it starts to deteriorate and get to a point of where we're looking at a major reconstruction as opposed to some resurfacing. Then the large one is 2028. That's the 207th Street project. That's a complete street rebuild from Woodland to Ridgeview. And if you'll recall, we've been awarded some federal funding for that. The CARS funding would go on top of that, and we would, because of the size, scope, dollar amount for that project, we would continue to look at other funding sources for that as well. 2029 is Ridgeview from 199th to 191st. And then the 2030 we have slated at 199th from Woodland to Ridgeview. The 4 of those are kind of like the 2025 project. It's select base repairs and resurfacing. That 28 project on 207th is a little different animal in that it's a complete reconstruction, new street, curbs, shoulders, a complete street rebuild. So again, we've put together the estimated funding with some escalators in there for the out years, and the CARS funding request would be 50% of that eligible amount. We'll know year to year what the actual funding allotment is.
Is it time for questions, or are you
Please.
still presenting?
Yeah, no, that's the overview of the projects. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So, in looking at the locations of some of these streets, and with the understanding that hopefully half will get through the CARS, is there an ability so we're not just completely as a city paying that other 50%? Is there an ability for some infrastructure fees on developments outside of these streets to kind of assist with our 50%? Are we looking at that then too?
Yes, so, instances in 207th is an example
Right.
where it may be that some current future developments necessitate some improvements to that roadway. Maybe it's a right turn lane, left turn lane at access points. Outside of a big project like this, those would be costs, and that would be work that we would look to the developer to perform, to add those turn lanes onto our existing road network. In this case, what we would look to do is, rather than ask the developer to make improvements to a road that we're going to then tear up, would be instead to determine a value of the improvements that the developer needs to make, look to them to make an in-kind contribution, and we include the scope of those turn lanes with our project. So it's a win-win. It's less money that we have to spend, and it's also the dollars from the developer would go straight to a project and a road that would be there for 30, 40 years, as opposed to putting it into a road that is going to get torn up in a year or two. So that is one way. We also look at other funding sources, like grants. I mentioned that 207th Street where we are layering. So we'll have the federal grant We take the total project cost, subtract the federal dollars, and what is left is then CARS eligible at that 50% share. So it keeps whittling away at the cities, the amount that the city's paying for. And I will say in all those cases, these are all reimbursements. So we have to front the money, we have to have the full amount, and then as that work is completed, we submit and get reimbursement back.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a brief comment about, I guess the third year one, 207th from Woodland to Ridgeview. Obviously, that's a really large and expensive one. And you said that we're tying that with some other federal funding or stuff we're working on. And we don't have to have that, we're not locked into that by approving this. I just wonder, with as many road priorities as we got, if that one, I kind of question that one a little bit, especially at that dollar amount. I think there's other roads that are traveled a lot more than that one, but there may be other information I don't know yet, or, yeah, he's nodding his head. So, but I'd like to hear more about that one.
Yeah, and I should also add, these projects also coincide with our 5-year CIP, and so we'll be back before you talking in a lot more detail about these projects as well as all the others on the CIP and all of those, the needs, the why now,
Yeah.
and the funding strategy as well.
Yeah.
I know we've approved a lot of developments along that road, Brian, so I think that's kind of the thought, is that by 28, I bet you they're all gonna be kind of full swing. So that makes a little sense. I could see it probably pushing to 29 or 30 just based off of how those improve, but I do like the way we approach this 25 project. I think 26, 27 looks like we can kind of do it the same way, where we can just pay cash, so I like those. I know typically in the past, we've kind of done one smaller, one larger, one smaller, one larger. It looks like we're kind of, is it because that one is so large, we're kind of staying with smaller for the other 4 years, or what's the reasoning behind that?
Part of it is that, part of it is the amount of funding available at the county. It's not growing at the rate, it's not keeping up with inflation in the construction industry. And there's just not enough money to go around. And certainly over the last 5, 6, 7 years, Spring Hill has received, relative to our size, to our population, we've received a lot of funding through the CARS program. Honestly, we're starting to get a lot of attention from other communities in the county saying, hey, why is Spring Hill getting so much money? So in recognition of that and trying to avoid any major overhaul to the funding strategy within that CARS program, we're trying to be cognizant of that, and have, say, 2 of those smaller projects before that large one, just so that the amount of money allotted to Spring Hill doesn't look quite so disproportionate relative to the other communities.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we've had that conversation before, so I kind of was assuming that, so thanks for laying it out there. But other than that, I think to me, 191st is very needed. I like that that's kind of the next one up, and then we're going to try and coincide with the stoplight. So, to me, this looks pretty good. Like I said, I kind of agree with Brian. I think 207th probably could move to 20 or 29 or 30. But again, I know this is kind of just a tentative, and we can change it as needed. But yeah, no, I think I'm pretty good with this.
Yeah, I would kind of echo what both of you said. With 207th, it's obviously a needed project, but I think there's some other areas. I mean, we could go on and have a long meeting about what some of the other areas are. I mean, to me, one of them that stands out is like Webster Street south of South Street. I mean, it's in pretty darn rough shape, and I know we've talked about that a little bit. And I know there's possible talk of realignment or some other stuff with that. So to me, I think, and obviously we'll have a discussion when we start talking about the CIP, but to me, there's some other areas that for sure are in worse shape but it's just kind of talking about priorities. But once again, that's another day, another topic. But I kind of agree with both of you on that. There may be some other areas that may be a higher priority, possibly.
Well, and you gotta balance what's cars eligible too.
Right,
I
and
mean, Cars
obviously
is
that
gonna-
one's in Miami County, so it's not cars eligible.
Cars is gonna pay for the bigger arterial
Right.
type ones. You know, we have some residential ones in here in town too that I think really need a lot of work, but they're not gonna be cars eligible.
Right.
So,
And Miami County does have, the quarter-cent sales tax. They do have of course, a lot smaller scale, but a little sort of similar program. And Webster would definitely be eligible for that. So that'd be another discussion at some time. So.
That, I will say that many of the other roads that you've mentioned are absolutely on our plan, on our radar screen. And as you mentioned, as we start talking about the larger capital improvement project, you'll see those others show up. These are the ones that we've just identified as good cars eligible projects. Not that they're the only road projects we have slated.
Yeah, and I think this is a pretty good group. I think of all these projects I think are needed. So I don't think there's any on there that we could say we don't need that.
yeah, there's none to say get rid of them.
I think one of the reasons on 207th Street, the reason it's slotted for that year is that due to the federal grant funding and then the CARS cycle, and then also with some of the developments in there were special benefit districts. So I think that's why it has to be slotted, if I'm correct, Allison.
Yes.
That we have to put it within that 1 year. So pushing it out would potentially lose that federal grant.
And if all those numbers hold, I mean, we're paying 33% of that, which is a really good deal. So.
Right, and I know staff is still working with other developments in that area, but I believe that at least one developer has put a special benefit district in I can't remember what it's called, Fox Hollow.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution number 2025-R-06, acknowledging review and acceptance of the requested 5-year Johnson County Assistance Road System CARS program for 2026 through 2030.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of Spring Hill Recreation Commission request for replacement of art on city property and provide a letter of support to accompany grant application. And do you have to exit for this one, Brian, or no?
Yes, how's that work, Spencer? Good? Right.
Yeah, this is a rec commission thing, so typically in the past you've recused yourselves on those.
Does that affect us for quorum?
So that will affect quorum, which it doesn't seem like, and I'll leave this up to Mr. Spirit, doesn't seem like we're requesting any expenditure of money based on ARS. And it's kind of designated as a let's talk about this, is do we support it before there's a final agreement? Is this just a letter of request, or a letter of support for a grant, is that right?
That's correct.
So I don't think you guys on there are going to be needing to take any binding action. There's a motion on there, but I think we can just skip a motion and just have it as a discussion item between the remaining 2 council members and the mayor.
I just want to make sure we're crossing
Yeah.
our Ts.
So yeah, there's no binding really action needed.
So there won't be an official vote. We'll just have it'll be a discussion item. Okay.
Okay. I am going to abstain from this.
All right. We'll see you soon. Mr. Spear, this one's yours as well.
Thank you, Mayor. So the city received a request from the Spring Hill Recreation Commission. They would like to, as they begin to look at warmer weather and some additional programming for the outdoor fitness court behind City Hall here, they've found a unique piece of furniture. It's a repurposed wind turbine, or portion of a wind turbine from large-scale wind generation that that company is repurposing those decommissioned wind turbines and taking portions of them and making park benches or bench seating that has the circle of the wind turbine still around it. So it provides a little shade, a little cover on the bench, and it's just a unique piece. What the rec commission would like to do further is to commission a local artist to do some mural style art on that bench and wind turbine as well, just as a piece of art as well as a functional piece of furniture. And they would like to place it near on city property, near the outdoor fitness court. There's currently no seating around the fitness court area as people are waiting or waiting for a class or waiting for a friend or family member to finish a workout. So it would serve that purpose of just having some general park seating, but also in a unique fashion and add that art element. But because it's on city property, the rec commission's looking to do that. It will ultimately require city council approval, but the item before you today is just the rec commission is looking for support from the city, specifically a letter of support for a grant application that they're making to purchase to cover the cost of purchasing the bench as well as the artwork.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, do we have any pictures anywhere?
As I was preparing just a couple of minutes ago, I realized I had that prepared for last night's meeting and did not get that taken forward to today. So I do not have that for you right now. I apologize. It's about a 6-foot bench that has roughly a 5 to 6 foot diameter metal.
I found one online that I'm guessing that's probably
Oh, wow.
something similar.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's like it's a big circle with
like an egg.
with a bench. Yeah,
Okay, is that the right?
I suspect so.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I mean, do you think it would fit in okay with everything, or? I mean,
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna, it will catch your eye just because it's unique, but it is not I wouldn't see it as anything particularly objectionable. The artist that they have in mind is the same artist who did the mural at the old pool down by the ball fields, and I'm trying to think, there are a couple of other murals around the community that same artist has done. Again, those are all murals that have been very well received throughout the community, so that style tends to resonate well with folks.
Yeah. Well, I think the important thing about this one is hopefully it's not going to cost the city any money, so that's a good thing, and get something that'll benefit the community and members to use.
Yeah.
So.
it is good.
They're not proposing to cost the city any money, and additionally, the rec commission is proposing to take care of the maintenance of the surface. When they put the mural, they'll typically put a protective clear coat over that, and then that needs to be reapplied periodically to continue to maintain the integrity of the artwork. And the rec commission is prepared to take on that ongoing maintenance for that surface, if you will.
Is there any kind of like renewal or time limit for? I know they're changing out some of the other pieces every couple of years, but how does this work? Is it just kind of indefinite, or is there like, in 2 years we reevaluate and see if we want to keep it there or not?
So it can absolutely be reevaluated. It is a little different from the other artwork that they have is through a program, and most of that artwork is say on loan or lease, if you will, for a 2-year period, and then that artwork cycles out and some new comes in. This bench, because they would be purchasing it, could stay there, or it could be moved, stay there for a couple of years and move to another location. That would be kind of up to, that could be discussed and decided between the rec commission and the city.
But I think the goal would be to keep it in place, or for sure keep it in our community somewhere at a park or somewhere where it can be used. I assume since it's a bench, most benches aren't removed unless they're not being used, or in
Right.
bad shape. So.
And because it's purchased and not leased, we'd have that ability.
I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win for us if we get it, so I don't have any problem with it. And I guess we don't need to take any vote on it. Somebody can,
I'm good with it. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
okay, if somebody wants to grab Brian. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. The next item on the agenda is consider approval of agreement with Water One for construction of connection lines in preparation of a merger of the two systems. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor, or Mr. Spear. It says Mrs. Dunn, but it looks like Mr. Spear is ready to tackle it.
We've talked about roads, we've talked about parks. Let's finish the trifecta with water. So, as you are, I think, all aware, we've been talking about the possibility of a consolidation of our water system into the Water One system, where Water One would operate and maintain those water lines that are currently part of the Spring Hill water system. As we work through the final phases of that agreement and that process, one of the items, arguably one of the most necessary pieces of that, is physically connecting their water system, the Water One system, to the City of Spring Hill water system. There is currently only a single 4-inch line that connects those two systems, and that is certainly not sufficient to provide water to all of the Spring Hill water customers. So what is necessary are connection points, and really to keep the pressures and the volume and the supply of water adequate. It's not one connection, but 5 connection points that are needed, 5 different locations where the Water One system would be physically connected to Spring Hills. And those are, you can see those locations, but I don't know that the location is as important as just the fact that those connections are necessary to keep the supply of water and pressures that are necessary to continue to operate the system. The total cost of that is estimated now at $245,542.13. So approximately $250,000 total for those 5 connections. That's extending pipe, making those connections, tying everything in. Under what is proposed is that Water One will contract for that work, and the city will reimburse at 100% of the costs to do that work. That $245,000 is Water One's estimate of what that will cost.
Is that a not to exceed amount?
It is not. That is their estimate. They believe that's a conservative estimate and that it could likely be lower, but they will provide us with the invoices showing exactly what their costs are, but the city would be responsible for 100% of the actual cost. If it's less than $245,000, we pay less. If it's over $245,000, we pay that larger amount.
So they're doing the work, the actual work?
They are contracting for the work. I don't believe they will do it with Water One forces directly, but they will contract for that work.
So they contract for it, but we pay for it?
Yes,
Okay.
because it's
Is it because we're hooking onto their system and so they want it to their specifications? Is that why they're contracting it versus us contracting it?
Yes. It's because they are what the goal would be ultimately for them to operate both systems. So doing it to having the work done to their specifications is the idea behind why they are taking the lead on that. And I will say, even if, because we don't have an agreement in place, that consolidation agreement in place yet, worst case scenario, if that agreement for some reason does not come to fruition, I feel like this is still a good expenditure. While $250,000 is not a small amount of money, to get a robust interconnect system that would fully supply our entire water system with all the water that we need, say in the case of an emergency. If our current feed from Hillsdale Lake were to be interrupted and not operable, today we don't have a good long-term solution for that. We have whatever water we have stored in the water tower and ground storage tank, and we have the little bit of water that current 4-inch pipe can supply. So we've got a vulnerability, as long as we are operating that water system, we have a vulnerability there. This connection would eliminate that vulnerability. So even if that Water One consolidation does not go through, I feel like this is still an expenditure that's worthwhile for the city, from a risk management perspective.
I'm just saying, if we agree to approve it, I want to know how much it's gonna cost before we approve anything.
So this is an agreement to fund it. When it comes to actually, when we get the bill from them, so to speak, that will still come back. So you all will know what it is. But I will say this agreement is binding the city to say we are willing to pay that cost. We don't know exactly what it is. We know what their estimate is. And I feel pretty confident that it will be in that neighborhood, if not slightly below.
Would we have the ability to dispute that in any way if the cost ends up coming in significantly higher?
Yeah, let's say they came back
expected?
at $300,000, would we say, hey, hold on a second?
I was thinking even higher than that. If it came back at
See, that's
three
what
fifty.
makes me nervous to approve anything without knowing for
With
sure.
it, especially
I mean,
without a not to
I
exceed.
know they're giving us an estimate, which we make decisions based on estimates all the time. So I'm just curious.
I would have felt better if we said this was a $250,000 not to exceed, up to.
Yeah, and I think we can absolutely ask them when they get their hard pricing, but before they start the work, get us that number.
Yeah, because we're also having to trust them with the bidding and contracting
Yeah.
part of the process. So it takes a lot of control out of our hands.
It's almost an open-ended check almost.
Wonder what Chad,
It could get to that.
if Chad has some,
Are you ready for me?
yeah, that's why I just said.
Yep.
I'm still kind of up in the air on this. I know I saw an email from Water 2 the other day saying that they still want to work with us. I wouldn't want to throw a bunch of money out there, especially kind of open-ended without knowing, what that option looks like too. So for me, I'm not really for this at this point.
We do have, we have worked with, Miami too. Always have to make sure I say that correctly. I mix up the two. Miami Water 2. We have worked with them on, the extension to our existing contract at what rate. We did not get, in my opinion, any favorable term from them. As a matter of fact, our cost would increase about 50% if we did a 12-month contract with them. If we were to do a 30-year contract, it would look more like it does today. So we are going forward that is not our best option for the future. Is that simple? I mean, I could talk about that for a long time, but we did not receive a favorable set of terms from our current supplier.
And so with that, taking that into mind, that's one of the other reasons why we think this is a good strategy to move forward, because we have already looked at that and it does not look like it will benefit us to go to that. And so this still looks like the best option, not only for city, but also to save our customers money, especially in the future.
Yeah, I'm not against this. I'm not excited about the process of how this is going to play out at all. That's really my issue with that. And
Are we,
I realize there's a certain amount of risks that we have to take in decisions all the time. This one kind of feels like a fairly big one, although, I mean, I don't think they're trying to get over on us or overcharge us or gouge us or anything like that. We just don't have a lot of protection if we move forward with this one.
Are we on any kind of time crunch? I mean, could we change this to a not to exceed amount so it gives us a little bit of protection?
So one of the important time elements is our current water, wholesale water contract with Miami Two expires at the end of June of this year. So by that time, we need to have a new agreement and a water supply in place. Right now, there is still time to complete the work contemplated here, those 5 connection points, and have that online prior to the end of June. But we don't have a lot of extra time at this point to get that work done. So some of it is looking ahead to say, okay, if we can't or we don't want to pay twice as much as we're paying now from our current supplier, then we need to have a way to get water from somewhere else. This would do that.
I also think this could play out just fine too. I mean, they could bid it out and it come in at, 240, 250, 260, somewhere right in there, and it'd be just fine. So, I mean, there's equal opportunity for that scenario to play out as well. So,
Well, and we have this, this is coming from the water fund, so we're not making an exception, taking it out of somewhere else that we don't really have a good source of funding for.
Correct.
So yeah, I don't think they're trying to take advantage of us either. Like I say, I wish, from my standpoint, I wish there was a not to exceed amount on there just to give us a little bit of layer of protection.
I'd like to, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'd like to point something out. Between the rate that our current supplier wants to charge if we take a 12-month extension versus what we pay them today for water, and I did quick math here, on the approximately 12 million gallons we bought last month, we will spend more in increased cost in a single month than the amount of this contract. So this is a lower risk alternative than continuing down the path that we are on. And we will pay every month the amount of this contract to the other supplier. The other thing is that we've had this same conversation with Water One and said, geez, no one wants an open checkbook program. They are confident in their quote on the 250,000 and that they build some contingency in there. To where I feel like we have confidence in the number they're giving us with unknowns. We could run into a giant rock we're trying to dig through or something that you wouldn't know about, but I feel like they are making their best effort to give us accurate costs on the project.
Well, and also, just another side note, they're wanting us as a customer, so I don't feel like they're probably going to screw us over and then say, yeah, we still want all your business.
So, Mrs. Dunn, you're saying that if we didn't do this and we move forward with new rates starting in June-ish or whenever that would be, we'd be looking at paying this amount-ish
In 1 month.
monthly in addition to what we're paying currently?
I double check my math. It will take a few months to get us there, but the risk here is that we will end up in a contract for 12 months that cost us more than the construction cost estimate
cost
from
the
Water
builders.
One, significantly.
And ultimately, if we do move forward with the Water One, which would take these 5 lines, if we move forward, it really will save the citizens a significant amount on their bill, even from what they're paying now. So it will benefit for sure us in the long run.
You guys can keep discussion if you have more questions or anything. I will make a motion to approve it and then vote on it and see where we go, I guess. But I'm comfortable enough to make a motion.
I think in light of knowing that if we don't do it, it'll cost us way more than just this amount. I think that's a no-brainer that this is the best path forward.
I think
I
the
mean, if we do a
challenge-
12-month, yeah, I mean, if we look at longer terms, it seems to be they're more favorable. So, yeah, if we're worried about, hey, we're only going to extend for 12 months, yeah, we're going to pay a lot more. But I don't know if we've looked at all our options. That's the only thing I'm saying, so.
Well, even
I
the
won't-
long-term one is still more expensive than what we're paying now. So it would still be a net negative to us.
I'd like to actually table it and have more definite information. I know you're like winging the math right now, like I'd like to actually, can we talk about it next time, so we just have the exact information of what it's gonna cost?
We can table, would you guys also be comfortable approving the mayor to enter this agreement as an up to amount? So here's the thing, Water One's contracts, and you guys see this in the packet, like they're pretty short and sweet and to the point, which is and really nice from a government efficiency standpoint that their lawyers and our lawyers aren't doing it much. We can tell them, hey, our council only approved up to 250, 275, whatever you want it to be, and then they can either say, great, we'll go get bids and see if that works, or they can say, no, it needs to be this open-ended term, which that effectively does the same as tabling it, which is we bring it back to the next meeting because they've said, no, it needs to be this specific term, not to an up to amount. Or they'll say, yeah, an up to amount makes sense, it's 2 whatever, 3 whatever, and then the bids come in, and if they're over that, it's not a deal, and we come back to you and talk it through. That's the alternative of, you can, if you'd like, I mean, I get that it's sometimes a hard pill to swallow. For what it's worth, staff is correct. I mean, they have a business relationship they're trying to cultivate with us. So I don't think they're gonna try to squeeze under a $500,000 contract under our nose.
I'm really not worried about that at all. It's just there, you know?
Right, yeah.
I'd be completely comfortable with a, 250,000, not to exceed, or even 275, just, but you guys are the ones deciding, so.
I can go either way. I can go with a motion to approve with a limiter on it or not to exceed. I can also go with the full table. I mean, if we do the full tabling it also allows us to get some more concrete data assembled to look at, okay, if we don't do this, what is our ongoing cost? If we do a 6-month contract, if we do a monthly contract, if we do a 12-year or a multi-year. I mean, I know that'll help us
Miami's thing-
decide better, but,
Yeah, so talking about the other alternative, Miami 2 had provided a letter with a 12-month option that was almost double what we pay them now. And then they offered a long-term option that was more in line with what we are paying now. The impact that has on the ratepayer, on the resident, on the customer at the end is what you see on your bill is our cost to buy that water wholesale plus all of our operational costs to maintain the lines and so on. So even if we enter into a long-term contract with Miami 2 that keeps the wholesale rates, what we buy the water for, about where they are now, then that's going to keep our retail rates about where they are now. That's almost double what Water One's retail rates are right now. So even if we go into a long-term contract that may not be an increase in costs to the city in terms of what we pay, what we spend on buying water, it will represent a significant increase in what the resident pays versus what they would pay as a Water One customer. So I think it's not just about the impact to the city's budget, but when we start looking at the impact to the ratepayer's budget, it looks a little different.
I'd like to see an apples to apples
Yeah.
comparison because, I feel like we're saying
Me
that,
too.
but I haven't seen anything that shows
In
that.
writing, yeah.
And really, have we gone back to them and tried to negotiate that long-term rate? So for me, I just want to see it apples to apples. Right now, we're just talking in what ifs and,
Yeah.
this could be, we could pay this much in 2-3 months. I mean, all of that's just what if. I'd like to see it on paper and be able to make an informed decision.
I'd agree. I still want to table it. That's my vote.
we need a official motion to table, right?
Yep.
I make a motion to table this item until the next meeting.
Second.
Got a motion second to table the item until the next city council meeting, regular city council meeting. What's the date of that meeting? We got it, 13th, till March 13th. Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0 to table that until the March 13th meeting.
So Jacob, do you understand what's being asked of you then to bring to the next meeting of what we want to see?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, well, with that, that ends formal council action. We'll move on to announcements and reports. I don't believe I have anything. Mr. Peel?
I made a mistake when we were talking about cars earlier. When I was talking about the 207th to Woodland, in my mind was thinking of 215th Street. So I had the wrong road. The 207th one definitely is a priority. So I just was looking at the wrong place on the map. So that's my mistake.
Mrs. Feedback?
Yeah, just some update questions. Do we have any updates on sidewalks? Where we're at, what projects, kind of where we're at? I mean, I guess if that's you, Jacob, you wanna just report on it in your report. Let's see. Have we received anything from the developer that came last time? Proposing, he said he'd have a plan or something.
223rd.
Right.
No, we have not.
We haven't, okay.
We did a plan, we have not. We received an outline of what he had discussed here
Okay,
in this, but no, we have not received a plan.
okay. Do we have any updates on how the KDOT survey, the corridor survey's going? Are they waiting on anything from us?
Nothing from us. They'll probably go out to do an RFP on that, probably within the next 60 days. It'll take them a while to get through that process. And then the survey itself will probably take around 12 to 18 months. So it's a long process for that study.
I know.
So,
I just wanna make sure everybody else knows that too.
yeah, that'll take quite a while. It's a partnership between KDOT, Olathe, City of Olathe, City of Spring Hill, and also Johnson County.
Okay, and then when are we appointing the next city council member? When's that coming up?
Yeah, it should be the next meeting.
Okay. Those are all my questions, thank you.
Chad, did you have anything?
No report.
Mr. Massey?
I have a report, just because I know the question will come. We have met with KDOT this week on 191st Street. We, meaning staff and our engineers, met with them earlier this week and are proceeding with completing the design work, working through that process. It was a good meeting, so I think we're moving forward, so hopefully that process will continue probably throughout till the end of summer. Hopefully a little sooner than that, but somewhere by the end of summer, we hope to have the ability to have KDOT give the final blessings that we can go out and bid the project.
Mr. Lau?
No report.
Mr. Burton?
No reports.
Mrs. Abel?
No report.
Madam Clerk?
No report.
Mrs. Dunn?
No report.
Mrs. Jones?
No report.
Mr. Spear?
Let's talk about sidewalks. So we've still been looking, if you'll recall, we sought some grant funding for some sidewalk work that we did not get, specifically along South Street. So we've still been looking under rocks, trying to find some grant opportunities, some other funding partners. We haven't found that yet. We are now, though, starting to get, it was easier to take time and look when we were in the wintertime and we couldn't really be constructing anything anyway. Now that, spring is around the corner and we're starting to, look at a time when construction could come more favorably, we will look. Alice and I have met and talked about, our sidewalk standards and what we need to do to bid that out, not as a This would not be the South Street project or anything on that scale, but simply adding sidewalk, replacing sidewalk, more in that $100,000 to $200,000 range, like we had talked about as an annual, just maintenance and an upkeep effort. And we'll still keep searching for those funding sources for those large items, that the $1 million projects like the South Street project.
Okay. Well, we'll end announcements and report this time and move on to executive session number 1. Looks like we need 15 minutes.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 15 minutes for the preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property pursuant to KSA 75-4319B6 of the Kansas Open Meeting Act. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 1:15 p.m. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Lane Massey, City Administrator; Spencer Lau, City Attorney; Jacob Spear, Director of Public Works; Allison Abel, City Engineer.
Do I need to call Chad or somebody? Does somebody call him?
Yeah, when we get back there.
Oh, okay.
So we just need a second.
Motion needs a second.
Oh, I'll second it.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0. We will see you guys shortly. Welcome back, everyone. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened in open meeting at 1:15 PM. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. With that, I entertain a motion to move into executive session number 2.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1 of the Kansas Open Meeting Act. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 1:32 PM. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Lane Massey, City Administrator; Spencer Lau, City Attorney.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0. We will see you guys shortly. All right, welcome back, everybody. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened in open meeting at 1:32 p.m. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. And with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion to second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
We lose them. Opposed? Can we officially vote to adjourn with? All right. Motion carries 2-0-0. Have a good day, everyone.